Good afternoon, friends. On behalf of US India Business Summit and Georgia Tech Global Business Forum, we invite you to a special session, which is titled as Equinix Session, Digital Infrastructure Trends. It is being recorded and we will have a case study. And basically, Equinix and PubWise have been working together. And we here have honor of having Mr. Dwight Ringdahl, who's CRO of PubWise. And session moderator is Ms. Melissa Cotton, Partner Account Director of Strategic Alliances, Equinix. She's joining us virtually. Melissa, you're there? Hi. Can you hear us? Melissa?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
joining us. Good
No,
afternoon.
my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
And with me on my left-hand side is Dr. John McIntyre, who's the co-chair for Georgia Tech Global Business Forum. Would you like to say a few words about Global Forum?
Yes, we've been doing a global forum. Yeah, I could turn that on. Hello. Okay, it's a system that matches the age of the building. It's a historic building. In fact, we take great pride in calling it the Historic Academy of Medicine. So yes, we have been doing a global forum really since 1993. Which is the creation date of the Center for International Business Education and Research at Georgia Tech, funded by the federal government. I joined forces with Annie back in, I don't know if it's 13 or 15 years ago. So we've been doing this particular version of the forum together. And we put together, as you can see, an impressive program. And in fact, the next speaker, Mr. Dwight Ringdahl, is indeed a testament to that, the quality of the speakers, the impact of the forum, particularly in its video form, which will be propagated and really visualized by a much larger audience than is actually physically present today. So it's a pleasure to have done that and to continue to look forward to the next year's version, having learned lessons this year, which we will incorporate in our next iteration. Annie, back to you.
Thank you, John. Now I would like Melissa to take over from here, and John and I will leave the stage.
Maybe sit closer to the center.
All right, Andy and John, thank you so much for having Equinix here today. And we're excited to be here with Dwight Ringdahl, who is from PubWise, a customer of ours. And we wanted to give Dwight a few minutes to talk about his company, how they're using Equinix data center and digital services, and how they work with multiple public cloud providers and multiple customers and partners to deliver their advertising technology. So Dwight, please go ahead and just introduce yourself, and if you can say a few words about PubWise, that would be great, and then we'll get in talking about what everybody really wants to hear.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for having me today. My name is Dwight Ringdahl. I am the Chief Revenue Officer at PubWise, which is an ad tech company that provides advertising media for in-app advertising and display advertising and CTV advertising. We're located here in Atlanta. My background, I got into IT back in the early 80s while I was in the military working on the chemical weapons software. And after Desert Storm, left and became a serial entrepreneur, and have had several companies that range from companies with fiber optics and satellites in space down to software development companies. Ad tech is kind of a culmination, in my opinion, of kind of my background a little bit, and the fact that it is probably one of the most egregious users of technology, both whether it be bandwidth and traffic over the internet, or whether it be computational power and the speed to do such. PubWise has been around for a while. We provide services to publishers primarily, which is the people that own the web pages. So if you're a website owner and you want to monetize your website through ads, would be someone that you'd be reaching out to. We also do the other side most recently now, where if you are an advertiser and you're looking to get your products out into this space, we're able to do that. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I'll kind of describe a little bit about how the platform operates and some of the technology hurdles that Equinix in particular has helped us overcome, and some of the financial benefits in going into kind of a hybrid cloud environment versus previously having owned all our own equipment and data centers and network and all that other kind of stuff. So, Melissa?
That's awesome. All right, thanks, Dwight. So if you could tell everybody a little bit about you talked a little bit about what Pubwise does and the digital advertising industry itself, but I thought it would be great for people to really kind of understand the technology behind it, right? How important is latency? Where are those bids coming from, whether it's a publisher or an advertiser? The need or the importance for scalability. And, you know, as we all tend to say, we're kind of coming out of the pandemic that was known as COVID. How did that impact you over the last 2 years, and what do you kind of see moving forward?
Okay.
I know that's a lot to throw in, but once you get started,
I'll try to remember all
you'll
of
be
those
able to hit all
questions.
those questions well. Yeah.
So let me describe a little bit about the problem, because you got to understand the problem before you can find a solution to most problems. So the problem is, and I'll paint a little picture. So we're here in Atlanta. We have CNN here in Atlanta. CNN says, "Hey, Dwight, I have an ad on this person's browser, and it's a 300 by 250 ad that's up in the top right corner, and it's on a small cap finance page." They say, "Do you want to buy it?" Because they're looking for somebody to buy that ad so that they can monetize that website. So they say, "Dwight, do you want to buy it?" We say, "Okay, hold on a second. We're going to do some verification." So what we do is we verify that that person is actually a person, that it's not a bot or some computer data center or something like that that may be trying to make money with fraud that it should not be doing. And then what we do is we clean that up, we add some data to it, we categorize it, we add some geolocation stuff to it. We look at that user to see if there's any other information we may know about that user. And think of an eBay auction. We hold an eBay auction. We put the auction up and we say, "Hey guys, anybody out there want to buy this?" And we reach out to our hundreds of buyers that we have, and it could be like Bank of America. So let's just use Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and SunTrust or Truist. They all bid and they all say, "Well, I'm willing to bid $1 for that." Bank of America says, "I'll bid, you know, $1.25, and Truist says, "I'll bid, you know, 75 cents." So Bank of America would win that bid at $1.01. We use what's called a Vickery auction, which is 1 cent above the second highest price. So they win that. They send us the packet of information that they want to display. We look at that packet of information to make sure that there's nothing malicious that's going to end up on the end user's computer. We make sure it's not, you know, pornographic or, you know, content that CNN might not want to have on their site. And then we send all of that back down to CNN. Well, we get 100 milliseconds to do all of that, and that includes the transit time. So transit time is the time it takes from the lips of CNN to our servers in New York, and our time to get back down to CNN or to the actual browser of that person. It's a lot of stuff that we do, because there's a lot of fraud control. We throw away probably 40% of that traffic, believe it or not. All of that's happening in that 100 millisecond time frame. 100 milliseconds is half the time it takes you to blink your eye. We do over 8 million of those a second on systems like this. So, I mean, that's a lot of compute time. The big problem that we had, my wife and I had a company called Zenobia Digital that was about, I think we started probably 8 or 9 years ago, and we were the first exchange that did this open RTB format. We sold it off to a British company about 2.5 years into it. But back in those days, we literally had to go out and buy the hardware. We went out and met with Michael Dell and bought thousands of computers from them. We actually assembled them here in Atlanta and created a supercomputer. If any of you are very technical and remember the old Beowulf style computer systems, that was kind of the operating system that we ran that on, and made it to the top 500 supercomputer list. We were 121, which was pretty cool. Something I always wanted to do in my career. But that type of hardware and infrastructure is extremely costly, and you got to buy it up front. And that's problematic. And understand this was 8 years ago, prior to cloud computing, and the ability to really talk even cloud to cloud. And with the new model and what we're doing with Pubwise now, we utilize basically our own hardware, even though we lease it from Equinix, but it's kind of cloud hardware. We can rent it when we need it. We don't when we don't need it, which is nice for cost and growth goes. But more importantly, it's the connection to the other clouds, because not all of the providers out there that are seeking some sort of an ad or want to connect with us on a partner level use Equinix. So you have people that are on Google Cloud, you have people on Microsoft, you have people on Amazon Cloud. And what we have found, and again, my background, like I said, I owned a company that was actually an internet company. We were actually a fiber optic provider for telcos. So we Bell South rented thousands of miles of fiber from us, and we provided lots of internet to them. So I was very familiar with that side. So I was extremely picky in latency, because again, 100 milliseconds, if I'm with a provider that's taken 15 milliseconds of time, that's that much less time I get to think with. And the more time I get to think, the better the experience is for both the seller and the buyer on a platform like this. So what we've been able to do in the Equinix data facilities, which, by the way, I was with Equinix back when I had the other company with the satellites, but we rented cages at that time. Now what we do is we rent the computers, and instead of owning the fiber optics, Equinix has got a very, very good IP platform that we use. But it allows us to connect to Google at the speed as if it was almost inside of the same building that we are at. It allows us to connect to Amazon at the same speed, almost as if we were in there. And in ad tech, a lot of people say, oh, who cares about ads? Ad tech is, like I said, the most compute intensive application on the planet, with the exception of weather and nuclear sciences. That it is, the finance guys, they'll come and ask us questions. How do we do it? Because they're trying to execute trades, and the time that we're executing 8 million in a second, they're doing a couple 100,000 a second. And it's it really is a very highly tuned platform and operating system that you have to put together to make all of these things fire on all 8 cylinders. One of the things that as technology has grown, which is obviously good for us, it's made it a lot easier. Back in the days when a computer talked to another computer, we were extremely concerned with even the latency between those 2 computers that are in the same rack. Most of the equipment nowadays will handle fast enough communications. You're kind of in picosecond times between those type of transactions, which there's a lot of in our ad tech stack. But with the platform that is built now. Again, you know, our servers are up in New York. Interestingly enough, and this is something, you know, if somebody told me 8 years ago that it was something I'd be able to do, we have the ability now to have diverse data centers that are not kind of islands. So back 8 years ago, we had a data center in Amsterdam, a data center in New York City, and a data center in San Jose, California. Those kind of operated as their own little islands. You could shut any data center off and it wouldn't affect those guys. But it did affect that region that you were in, because again, you know, it takes a long time to get to Amsterdam just on the internet. So with the Equinix platform, they actually have a fiber ring that they have built between their data centers. So we are now able to have diverse equipment in diverse data centers, which is excellent when it comes to redundancy. So anybody that needs high uptime and the speed, it's now able to be done, and that's super important in our industry. You know, we're not banking. If ads don't show, nobody dies, but it's still it's a huge revenue stream that, you know, minutes down is lots of money that's gone. So most people don't understand that the internet is basically freeware. You know, you're not paying to go to most sites, and the way that the people that create the content get paid is by advertising. So as evil as most people think advertising is, shut advertising off, you kind of shut the internet off, or you're going to be paying a lot of subscription bills to different people. So that's
we definitely don't want to do that, right?
Right. That's correct. You know, as far as the pandemic went, it did affect us a little bit. We saw actually an increase in traffic, but a decrease in spend on the advertising. Interestingly enough, there is an organization called the IAB here in the United States that is kind of the governing organization for advertising and stuff. And that organization has released papers, and we've known it because we've been doing it long enough, that when the economic crises come, and, you know, the issues that we're having nowadays with some, you know, inflationary issues and recessions and stuff like that, that's actually good for ad tech, because people that have businesses tend to spend more money during that time to garner the revenues that they need to stay in operation. So that's, you know, like I said, it's really, it's the testament to their platform that they've built, and they've built it for years and years. I know the founder personally of Equinix, Jay Adelson, who's not there anymore. He sold it off. But it is a business that has served our industry very well. Our platform actually does operate in a multi-cloud hybrid operating. We do have instances in Google. We have some instances in Amazon. Some partners.
And Dwight,
Yep.
Sorry, before I didn't want you to go too far down that, because I'd love if we could spend a few minutes kind of talking about that, how you're leveraging Equinix Metal, which is our kind of infrastructure as a service offering that Equinix has. So it's hardware, essentially compute that you can scale up and scale down and run whatever you want on it. But I know that, you know, you also have part of your platform is also in Google Cloud, and then you're supporting your publishers and your advertisers that are running in different clouds. So if you could just, you know, tell the audience just a little bit about, you know, how you made this move from everything on physical to hybrid, and how that enables you to support all of your publishers and advertisers and the multi-cloud world that we all are living in today.
Okay. So we, as Melissa said, we have Equinix Metal, which is kind of the center of our platform, which tends to do a lot of the enterprise partner communications. And then we have Google Cloud, which is also used primarily for our SSP side, which is the supply side, the publishers pages, hit that platform. And the reason for that is Google offers a lot of applications that are very important to us on that side. Some of the databases and some of the storage data over there allows us to have a very robust system. The founder of Pubwise, Stephen Johnston, has a patent that was just issued that does what's known as supply path optimization, and it is very much based on the ability to have rapid access to a lot of data and making decisions literally at the browser level as to who we should be asking to buy this inventory. So you can't always go out and say, hey, 1,000 buyers, who wants to buy it? Sometimes it's better to focus in on, 5 or 10 and let that happen. And that patent operates that part of the platform and runs through the Google Cloud and some of the big data stuff that Google does well for us. What's interesting is because the pipes of internet are so big now, and Equinix is basically laid fiber and Google's in some of the Equinix facilities. Equinix is a huge data center organization, and it allows us to literally, like I said earlier, almost act as if the equipment's in-house with us, with the other parts of the platform. And because of that, we're able to do some really, really tricky stuff, which is performant. It's Equinix Metal is nice for us because there are applications within our platform that really we can't have what I always call noisy neighbors. So in a cloud, a lot of times what will happen is you will have your computer instance set up, and if it's a small instance, you might be sharing that same computer with 12 other companies. Well, if they have, 5 o'clock at night is when everybody hits their server, and guess what? You run out of power at 5 o'clock at night. And I always call that the noisy neighbor effect. With the Metal, it literally is as if it is our equipment. We treat it that way. And it is, we don't get that noisy neighbor or anything like that, which is good. And being that we're a global company as far as traffic goes, we operate 24/7 all the way around the world with this traffic, that it's important to not have those slowdowns with that kind of stuff. Also, there are certain databases that the location to the physical equipment operate better. And because of that, having bare metal is what we call it in the industry, definitely helps us out with that as far as the speed to make all those transactions happen in 100 milliseconds.
And every time I talk to you, I just realize, how quickly time is going when I think about it all in relation to advertising. And so definitely puts a different spin on it. I know we're coming kind of close to the end, but I'd love for you to share with the audience a little bit more about, you talked about some of the improvements that you've seen, right? And how you're using the bare metal hardware to be able to scale up and scale down. But is there like numbers or details that you can share with the audience to kind of put it into perspective in terms of, the benefits, the cost savings, the business realizations that you've been able to achieve by moving into a hybrid model?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cost savings is huge for us. The ability to, like I said, in the old model, you bought the equipment, and Michael Dell was nice enough to lease it to us for 5 years, so we still had a big bill for thousands of computers and drives from them. But then we had to rent space from Equinix, and then we had to get bandwidth from Level 3, and all of these factors were cost buckets that kind of led to the point where that platform required 25 to 30% margin in those deals. Between that dollar and what the publisher would see, we would have to carve out about 30 cents just to kind of break even. We're currently pretty profitable now at 15%. And that's that actually makes a huge difference when it comes to the ability to get more business and more customers. Pubwise is growing very rapidly now, which is nice. We're seeing, 2x, not 2x, but 2-digit X increases almost on a quarterly basis as far as revenues go. So that's super important for us.
That's awesome.
Good for the Atlanta market. It's good for Equinix because we keep renting more stuff from you. Spend a lot more on bandwidth. But it's it has
But the
given us
business is growing.
yeah, the business is definitely growing. And it gives us the, speed is important. We're Pubwise, even though we're an ad tech company, we're really a lot of technical of the ad tech part. And, when you look at Stephen and his patents and his skill set, everything we do that optimizes that path gives him more time to do more stuff. And the more stuff that we can do, the better the experience, like I said, is for both sides. I mean, there's no sense in, this is an example I use a lot. So, you ride a bike, you need to go find a bike helmet, and you go out to Google and you say, hey, I want a bike helmet. Well, guess what? You're going to see bike helmet ads for the next month, even if you went and bought it on Amazon 2 minutes later. What we try to do is, with the extra time, it lets us start to look at a lot of these different things and optimize a lot of these things. You don't want to look at a bike helmet ad anymore. You might be interested in pedals, might be interested in, a jacket because it's getting cold or something like that. So to make the advertisers' dollars more important, we continue to add more technology. We don't get more time. I mean, it's kind of like a football game. There's only 4 quarters in the whole game, and if we're going to add, a whole nother quarter worth of thinking, there's just not time there. So by optimizing that stuff, whether it be from hardware, network, or a combination of both, like we get with Equinix, it just it greases the wheels for the innovation that's required.
That's fantastic. I always try and say that to customers when I'm talking to them, and it's so great to hear you say it as well, right? The benefits of digital transformation help the business grow, and so I think that's wonderful. We're heading to the end of the half hour. I don't know what time schedules are there, but we don't want to run long. But Dwight, thank you so much. It's been great to have you share this time with us and talk about the success that you're having at Pubwise with your digital transformation.
Yep. Thank you. And obviously Georgia Tech is a very technical organization. So, when it comes to these kind of things, obviously optimization is important to the innovation that comes out of here. So.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, Dwight, and thank you, Melissa, for sharing the experience which your company Pubwise had in working with Equinix. And as discussed earlier, we will be generating a case study out of it. It will be circulated, as Dr. McIntyre said, and we have recorded the session, and edited version of that will be available to everyone. Thank you, everybody. With this, we are going to move to the next session, which is going to be the last session of the program. And I would request Dr. McIntyre to join me here.